any stage of development. And most of the people having waking up experiences in the axial age was interpreted through mythic, literal, ethnocentric tendencies. And their interpretation of the religion was where we got all of these great myths. They're pre-rational. Moses parted the Red Sea. That's a Christian myth. The world is on the back of a turtle, that's on the back of a turtle, that's on the back of another turtle, and it's turtles all the way down. That's a Vedantic Hindu myth. Primarily Hindu myth. Lao Tzu lived to be 900 years old. That's a Taoist myth. And that's how they made sense of the world. The rational structure had not emerged. And so the religion is filtered through, the religion that they create, the religion that they relate to, the religion that they behave in, is all being filtered and perpetrated through mythic, literal interpretation with ethnocentric consciousness, only the ability to take the perspective of someone that's like me. Okay, understand this? And so here's the first mistake that happens. We largely, in the West, now, as we've moved into modernity and into postmodernity, we look at religion and we see all of these atrocities that religious people did and still do with mythic, literal, ethnocentric, violent tendencies, i.e. ISIS, exactly the same structure of consciousness that went on with the Christian Crusades as the Byzantine Empire went and killed the other Christians because they believed different than they did. Same structure of consciousness. And the first thing I want to say is none of it has anything to do with the religion. It has to do with the stage of development of the believers in any religion. And what we haven't understood is that it is possible for the religion, and they have, to continue to grow with the stage of development of the believers in the religion, but we had such resistance to what we saw. For instance, we saw all this violence that we thought was done in the name of religion. Humans are religious. Everything in some way is done in the name of religion. But it's the structure of consciousness, the stage of development of the believers that's causing the problem, not the religion. In exactly the same way that, for instance, the Nordic governments have safety nets for all of their citizens, have equality built into the government, have low poverty rates, have high educational rates, have higher happiness indexes than any other place in the world, and that's a government. Well, so is this corrupt social democracy piece of shit in Venezuela right now. That's a government too. Right? So was communism. Stalin killed 100 million people in the name of government. But it has very little resemblance to, for instance, Sweden's government. But they're both governments. But the level of development of the people promoting that government, even existing within the government, the higher cognitive capacity, the higher meaning-making map, the higher value systems are in many more of those Scandinavian citizens than they are in the repressed Venezuelan citizens. And government can be a catalyst to help people grow. So can religion. And without it, we're in trouble. Because you got nowhere to go for what's of ultimate concern. Instead, we get this superficial spiritual marketplace. So the payoff is this. Every single stage of development will interpret religion or a religion in a very different way. If you are introduced to Christianity, you can interpret that through a mythic, literal structure of development. If you're a mythic, literal believer. If you are a integral, if you have integral consciousness and you are introduced to the Christian tradition, you will find a whole body of work by Father Thomas Keating on contemplative prayer, on actually creating that consciousness in you that was in the Lord Jesus. You will find writings by the Kansas City minister called Integral Christianity. You will find a Christianity that transcends and includes the best of the whole path of that wisdom tradition and has completely got rid of all of the ethnocentrism. It's not about the religion, at least not much. It's about the level of development of the believers in the religion. And since the world's wisdom traditions gained their power, recognition in that mythic literal era, we continue to mistake the religion itself for the stage of development of the believers in that religion. Right? There are a whole lot of believers in Islam that aren't doing what ISIS is doing. Why is that? You ever ask yourself that? There's a whole lot of believers in Christianity that are not driving trucks into the Oklahoma City courthouse. The religion's not the problem. Now, religions need to modernize. They need to keep up with the level of development but they can't do that if we have this resistance, this allergy to religion in general. And that's what we have in our postmodern spiritual but not religion. It's the equivalent of having an allergy to government. And some of us have that. There's a call for anarchy in some of the postmodern trends. Yeah, try it for a little while. It's all great. It's like the glorification or romanticization with some of these pre-modern cultures. It all looks really great from your bourgeois yoga studio, but spend about a week in them. You will love your modern life. So, the problem with religions is not with religion at all. The problem with religion is when groups of believers hijack that religion for their own purposes, and those of us in the postmodern consciousness don't know the difference and assume that because this group is doing bad things with religion, it's a problem inherent to religion, and it's not. We're religious animals. We are going to seek what's of ultimate concern. And it would be well advised to have something there for those of us that have grown into high postmodern or integral metamodern consciousness. And we don't really have it. At least, I mean, I'm not saying we don't, but it's not well organized right now. So just don't let the word, we have a real problem to let words take on a life of their own, right? And the analogy with government, I think, is almost in direct one-to-one ratio, right? We can look at corrupt governments and then just assume government is bad, and therefore what we need is a society with zero government. Or we can look at corrupt religions, religious believers, and then assume all religion is bad, and what we need is a society with zero religion, and that's what we created in the modern and postmodern world. The modern world, looking at the atrocities of mythic literal belief systems, just put the lid on religion in general, just got rid of this whole idea of spirituality. and created this materialist reductionistic worldview. But you know what? Humans are a religious animal, and seeking what's of ultimate concern is not going away. And that's why the postmodern said, wait, this modern rational reductionistic thing is leaving a hole in my soul. Where do I go? Oh, there's nowhere to go. What do? I don't know. Let's create this spiritual but not religious marketplace of anything goes that's not filling that hole in the soul either.